It's Din-Din with Jin-Jin. It's gonna whet your appetite. Make Din-Din with Jin-Jin. What's on the menu tonight?
Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to Din-Din with Jin-Jin. I'm your host, Scott Jindrake, and, well, looks like you're right on time for dinner. Let's see what's on the menu tonight. So go ahead and chop your sweet potatoes in half, and then chop them in half again, so you can cut your wedges for your fries. Sweet potatoes are actually pretty good for you, and these fries are super simple to make. You just need to put some butter on the stove to melt on low heat while you're chopping them up, and then it takes about 15 minutes to make them. But that kind of turns some people off because they think, oh, 15 minutes, I don't have that. But if you make them first and pop them in the oven while you're cooking everything else, 15 minutes goes by really quick. And you really have to keep an eye on them to make sure they don't burn while you're preparing the rest of the meal, because it's super easy to forget about them when you've got other things on the stove. So go ahead and continue to chop your wedges. And again, don't forget about the butter on the stove. You don't want it on a high setting, you just want it enough to melt. Now let's grab this one here, chop this guy up. Since these sweet potato fries are super easy to make, they make a great side dish for burgers. You can also put them on the grill if you prepare them like we're doing now and wrap them in aluminum foil. You can put them on the grill, but seeing we don't have grilling weather right now, we're going to use the oven instead. While you're chopping, your oven can be preheated on a medium setting. So that would be about 150 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. Just to get that warmed up. Now, you don't want the oven too hot because you want to bake them, not broil. So medium setting is absolutely fine. Let's get these finished up here. Move this guy over here. Okay, now you're going to want to dip these in the butter and place them on your baking sheet. You're going to want to put some aluminum foil on your baking sheet so you don't have a mess. But then just dip them, coat them in butter, and put them on the baking sheet. yeah, it didn't get chopped off that one. Let's get these last few dipped in here. Pop them in the oven. Oh, didn't chop that one either. When you're chopping your sweet potatoes, make sure you chop the ends off before you cut them into wedges. It just makes things a little easier. Okay, let's get these put in the oven here. Now, these go on a medium setting, and they take about 15 minutes. Check them after 10, and you will know that they're finished when they're soft. Okay, now that the sweet potatoes are in the oven, go ahead and grab the onion. We're going to chop it in half and then into slices. We do the onion first, as it does take a bit longer to cook. Let's go ahead and finish chopping this one up here. Now I've prepared a pan with just a bit of butter in it to grease it up. I happen to use Irish butter from grass-fed beef. So you're going to want to break this onion up a little bit so you don't have a big mound of onion right in the middle of the pan, which will help it to cook more evenly. Now these will take about 10 minutes until they're finished, which will give you a couple minutes to chop up your mushrooms. Go ahead and take your time chopping your mushrooms because your onions are going to need a few minutes anyway. The advantage of preparing a meal in stages like this is you're not standing around waiting for something to finish. Because if you start with your sweet potatoes and those are in the oven while you're chopping your onion, and those are in the pan while you're chopping your mushrooms, and then you add that to the pan while you're preparing the beef, then you're not standing there for 15 minutes doing nothing, waiting for your sweet potatoes to finish, because you're finishing the rest of the meal. What you need to be careful about is you can't forget that you've got things in the oven. You can't forget what you've got on the stove. You really need to pay attention so your stuff doesn't burn. Now that you've got your mushrooms chopped and you've given the onions a couple of minutes, go ahead and add the mushrooms to your onion mix. And then give them a good stir. You don't want to forget that you still got sweet potatoes in the oven. So once you stir up your mushrooms and onions, go ahead and check on your sweet potatoes before we get started with the beef. Now that your beef is ready, you're going to want to get yourself a piece of cheese. I'm going to split this in half here, but eventually you'll want to put it into quarters. And let's not forget about the vegetables we've got on the stove. Go ahead and give these a stir. You want to make sure that you're coming over every once in a while and stirring these well so that they cook evenly and don't burn. Alright, now you should be ready to make your beef patties. So go ahead and grab a section of beef and a piece of cheese and fold the cheese into the middle of the patty. In doing this, as the patty cooks, it will melt the cheese. So when you're done, you bite into it and you get a nice cheese in the middle, which makes for a really, really good cheeseburger. So let's go ahead and grab the second one and do the same with that. Now remember, you don't want to get these too thick because you do want them to cook all the way through so that that cheese melts. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Now let's go ahead and finish up this second patty and get it ready to go. Don't forget about the vegetables that you've got on the stove. You've still got your onions and your mushrooms, and they should be about done. And don't forget about your sweet potato fries either, because those will burn if you forget about them. So once you finish these two patties up quick, you're going to need to put the meat to the side and take those vegetables off the stove and take those fries out of the oven right away. So this might get a bit hectic. So you want to make sure you've got space to put everything before you start taking things off the stove and out of the oven. You're going to want to grab a small bowl for the vegetables, for your onions and mushrooms, and then once those are off to the side, then you can grab a plate for your sweet potato fries, and then after those are out, we can put the burgers in the pan. We need to get those taken care of first. So now that these are done, let's go ahead and do that. Now that your bowl is ready, go ahead and take your mushrooms and onions off the stove and put them in the bowl. And then put the pan back on the stove and get it ready for the beef. So once your pan is ready, go ahead and put some butter in it and put in your beef patties. Now you'll leave these in there for about 10 minutes until they're brown on the outside and melted in the middle. Now you need to get your sweet potato fries out of the oven, and hopefully they're not burnt. These happen to be absolutely fine. So go ahead. There's actually about half that aren't quite done yet. So we're going to leave those back in the oven while the burgers finish up. Now you can go ahead and flip your burgers. They're nice and done. And now we wait a few minutes, let those finish up. Once your burgers are finished, you can go ahead and get them off the stove and into buns. And grab a piece of cheese. And then you'll want to grab your onion and mushrooms and put that on top. You want to get it as even as possible, but it might not happen. Oop, I think I got a bit much on that first one there. Oh well. Let's get the other 2 burgers off the stove and into buns. And then we'll throw some cheese on these 2 quick as well. There we have it. And then just put the rest of that mixture onto the 2 burgers. And then let's not forget about the rest of those sweet potato fries in the oven. The other half of my fries. So let's put the rest of these fries onto the plate. Add a bit of salt to taste. And voila. There you have it. Your cheeseburgers with sweet potato fries. Well, it was fun. I had a great time, and I hope you did too. I hope you join me next time, and bring a friend. And remember, don't be late for dinner.
What's on the menu tonight?